Being a master strategist in life is extremely important, particularly in the 21st century where things are so confusing and so distracting. And the 33 Strategies of War is a book designed to make you a superior strategist. The following is a compilation of the many interviews I've given over the years in which I discuss battle, conflict, and how to become a great strategist in the conflicts of life.
Something that comes from Sun Tzu. He has the expression about put your army on death ground, and it'll fight like you'll never have an army fight like that. If an army's back is to the wall, they're on the ocean, they're fighting on a beach, and there's a mountain behind them. They either beat the enemy or they die because there's nowhere to retreat, and they're gonna win. Has real primal importance for us because our energy, our level of energy, determines what happens to us. If we're excited by something, if we have to get out, if we have to make something succeed, we will put in 10 times the amount of energy than if we don't have that feeling. So sometimes you have to artificially put yourself in death.
Isn't that amazing?
In life, it's not a question of beating yourself up and saying, why did I do this? Why did I do that? It's a matter of being more realistic. And if you begin to think of yourself as the master of your own destiny, you're the master strategist commanding your own army, it's actually a very empowering, liberating idea as opposed to something where you just sort of beat yourself down and get down on yourself. It's more the fact that anytime something goes wrong in life, you can look at it and say, you were responsible for that in some way. You could have done things differently. Go back, analyze what you did in this mistake you made whenever, and see, if I had done A instead of B, it would have turned out differently. And I think you can do this for any decisions that you have in life.
One of the books I have is the 33 Strategies of War, and I talk about deterrence, the need to deter people from harming you. So if people are very aggressive and you show that you're kind of weak and that you're willing to take the abuse, they're just going to keep doing it. It brings out the tiger in them, it brings out the lion. They're going to keep doing it again and again. You need to show them, hey, don't mess with me. You need to show them one time, you do that to me, and you're going to pay a really fucking bad price for it. Back off. Well, in doing that, you're kind of lowering yourself a little bit. It's not something you would normally do, but it's necessary in the game of life to show people you can't be messed with. I generally believe in the soft approach in the world today, in being seductive and charming, thinking about everybody that you're working with and trying to be a good courtier. But at the same time, you can't be naive. Napoleon Bonaparte said, it's putting your iron hand inside a velvet glove. So if they're going to hit you, you're ready to hit them back. And you have to develop some fire inside of you. You know, a lot of times people don't give you deadlines in this world. You could spend your whole 20s and 30s never producing the thing that you dreamed of because no one's pushed you. No one said, you better do this by the time you're 35 or we're throwing you out of the house or whatever. There are no consequences for procrastinating. You have to create those consequences. You have to live on what I call death ground. Death ground means your back is up against the wall, the enemy is coming at you, and it's either defeat them or die. The foundation of any good strategist is your capacity to let go of the past and to not fight the last war. And what that means is the last war will have two effects on you. Either, if it was a defeat, it will bring you down and you'll become more timid and you'll carry that into your next battle and you'll become cautious and worried, etc. Number two, if it was a victory, you will become elated, you will become drunk on your own success, and you will think, I just have to repeat what I did the last time, which is a great mistake, and lots of mistakes in warfare have been because of that. There's two ways of fighting a war. There's attrition warfare and maneuver warfare. This isn't me, this has been other theorists have come up. Attrition war is you beat your opponent down with your superior weaponry until there are hardly enough of them left and they put up the white flag and we surrender.
Maneuver war is a much more Asian way of thinking, although Napoleon himself was a maneuver warrior. And you don't think of beating your opponent down. You think of maneuvering your army into a position which kind of takes the enemy by surprise, puts them on the defensive, ruins their whole balance, and in the process they crumble psychologically and they give in. If you want success in life, if that's your goal, if you want to win, you've got to let go of what worked the last time. So it simply comes down to this formula. Do you really want to win? If you really want to win, if you're not bullshitting, if you're not trying to act like you want to win, but you're just all into the attention and the ego, then go ahead and use the strategy that worked a year ago and think that it will work again, because your ego is tied to that. You think that that strategy that worked a year ago is because I'm brilliant. Well, maybe a little bit, but also because the luck, because of the right moment, there were factors. It wasn't just you. You need to adapt. So your ego intervenes and you think, I've got to do what I did last time because that means I'm great. And to try something else means maybe I'm not so great. That means you're not really into winning. If you really want to win, if you really want to be successful, you have to be in the moment. You have to look at the circumstances. No two battles are the same.
Never see a situation as hopeless. Your own weakness can become strength with clever manipulation.
The person I used to illustrate it is Napoleon Bonaparte, who was a grand counterattacker. That was his favorite strategy in life. And Napoleon was a very weird character. He actually loved bad situations. He almost had a way of putting himself deliberately in situations that were very adverse, where everything was against him, because his whole mind would rise to the occasion. And his philosophy was, anything negative, anything bad happening to you contains the seeds of a turnaround. You can turn it around into something positive. And you know, this could be the fact that your opponent in the battle is suddenly getting a little bit aggressive and carried away and arrogant. You can use their arrogance to turn it around. I think, you know, this is sort of a beautiful philosophy in life, if you will.
In my war book, I read the biography of Mahatma Gandhi, one of the saintliest figures in history. And I realized that Mahatma Gandhi was actually a brilliant strategist. Now, I'm not saying his use of nonviolence and civil disobedience didn't come from the heart. He didn't mean it. He didn't actually believe in the peaceful method. He did. He was very sincere, but he was very strategic about it. And he planned several campaigns like the Salt March in the 1920s, where he knew, for instance, that the English public was very liberal-minded. They had this ideal of themselves. They weren't colonialists. They weren't imperialists. They were doing the best for the world. And he deliberately had these marches where he knew that they would be reading in their newspaper and seeing photographs of Indian people being beaten up by Englishmen and their Indian officers on the streets of wherever. It would have a terrible impact on the public. He thought in terms of strategy.
We only have so much energy, we only have so much time on this planet, and the game is to use this to the maximum. And you can go in one of two directions as a mistake. You can try too much, you can take on too much in your life where the task at hand is beyond your capacity. You'll tend to fail and beat yourself up. Or you can take on something that's below your capacity, that's so easy, and you're not challenging yourself, and that's another form of failure. The game is to have this sort of perfect level where what you're doing in life matches exactly the energy and the resources that you have. And it's the same thing for an army. An army fights best when it is fighting with this sort of perfect economy. And that's how it should be in life. You're making the most of what you have.
People are locked in tactical hell. And the only way to get out of that hell of continual reaction and constant emotion is to think strategically. So hell is here, you're reacting back and forth. Strategy is here, you raised your mind up, you're getting out of that hell and you're thinking further along. And then there's grand strategy, which is a godlike power, which is where the greatest strategists in the world, they reside. There's maybe only 20 or 30 of them in history, but it's the ultimate area and it's what we should all be aiming for. And what strategy basically is very simple. I've defined it for you. It's the ability to raise your mind above the daily battles that you're facing and to be able to see longer term, to say to yourself, these are my interests. This is what I need to do. sometimes reacting is pointless. All it does is it drains me of energy. I'm not going to react. Instead, I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen, and I'm going to go my own way. All right, that's one thing that could happen. Or you can say, instead of reacting, I'm going to go, instead of they hit me here and I hit back, I'm going to go like that, right? Because I figured out there's another way of approaching them from the side that's going to surprise them. And suddenly they're going to react in a totally different way. You've changed the dynamics of the games because you're not thinking in straight lines. You're trying to go around. You're thinking of other ways of approaching the problem.
I talk in the book, I say, we all want to recapture our childhood. But a lot of times we think of that, we want to recapture our good looks, or that kind of happy feeling we have when we were children. I'm saying what you really want to recapture from your childhood is your mind. The fact that you had this very fluid mind that was open to experiences, that could take things in for what they were and learn from them and absorb. That kind of mental fluidity is the foundation of any great strategist. And oddly enough, the greatest of them all, like Napoleon, Hannibal, they all had this kind of childlike capacity to just simply take what was coming at them and not bring their own preconceptions to what was going on.
Most people in any kind of situation depend on something. Everybody depends on something when they go into battle. Usually what people depend on is something very physical. They depend on the fact that they have more money than the other side. They depend on the fact that they have more friends, more power, more influence, that their company is larger, whatever it is. They depend on physical, mechanical things. A person who uses strategy does not depend on physical, mechanical things. A person who depends on strategy depends on his or her creativity in the moment, learning about what it is in that particular battle that he can gain an advantage through, using the weaknesses of the person, whatever it is.